The function of architecture has three attributes. An attribute is that without which a thing ceases to be itself. The attributes of architecture are to shelter, to arrange space and utilities, and to express the reason, the essence of the life lived inside that shelter. If you take one of those attributes away, it ceases to be architecture. If you exaggerate one over the other, it ceases to be architecture. The attributes have to be in harmony. They have to be integrated. When you look at any aspect of a work of architecture, all of the attributes, the shelter, the structure, the expression, the form, the utility, the arrangement, should be so intertwined, so integrated, so coherent, that it is impossible to pull one aspect out from the other. Architecture is a fact-based experiential art. It is not a visual art. Of course, one works to make it visually integrated and pleasing. One applies those tools. But so much of modern architecture has become merely how it looks in a photograph, merely the architectonics, merely the grand gesture, the exaggeration. Often this is exciting work, often it's titillating, often it is stretching the state of the art. But often it fails to ring true because it's not an authentic expression of the facts of what is happening. And those facts are more than the dry utility that we so often think about when we write a program about architecture. Who's sitting next to whom, how many desks are there, therefore how many automobile spaces do we need. All those things are important because a building does have to deal with those aspects. It's not a good shelter if it does not do that. It's not a good arrangement if it does not do that. But the expression has to be of the philosophy, the time, the moment, the people, their mission, what they're about. Every work of architecture has the potential of being unique someplace on earth, to bring nature and humanity together, to create an experience of life, a way of living. Architecture is based on a way of living. It's an expression of a way of living. It protects a way of living. It facilitates a way of living. And each work has the opportunity to actually be unique. That at this time, this place, in this building, it is showing a way of seeing the world that is not possible anywhere else. Art eliminates, in the eyes of the artist, the irrelevant so that the essence of something can be brought out. Architecture makes everything that happens within its space a work of living art, the experience of living art. It doesn't eliminate because you cannot eliminate those things that are necessary to life, but can make those things, those functions, those processes, a ritual, an expression. It can make those things express back to those using the space the essence of what they are and the importance of what they are. It can reconnect you to all those aspects of life. It can elevate all those aspects of life. I call this kind of architecture authentic architecture because it embodies the philosophy of a way of living into everything that takes place within it. It is authentic because it is not reaching for false expression. It is not a symbol of things. In the ancient architectures, symbols were not superficial. They weren't signboards. They weren't trying to sell you something. They were not meaningless gestures. Symbol was a way of showing, of teaching, of demonstrating the essence of a thing, the essence of an idea. These are some things that modern architecture has lost, as much as modern architecture has gained in other areas. We have new materials. We have new capabilities, new structures. It is possible today, even in the last 5, 10, 15 years, to build buildings that were inconceivable as being practical just a few years back. But along the way, we seem to forget why we're building in the first place. We seem to forget the sanctity of the life that takes place. We seem to forget that sometimes we're destroying life when we build that building. Architecture for centuries has been about buildings. But now, as humanity spreads around a planet, architecture has become a global enterprise. It's no longer about just putting a building correctly in a place, in a subdivision, in Colorado, on a mountaintop, by a lake, in the middle of a great city. Everything we build today is a room in a single global piece of architecture. The earth, whether we like it or not, whether we intended it or not, is becoming a human artifact. It is becoming a single organism. We humans are creating the environment in which we are evolving within. This organism, this artifact, can be dead and meaningless. It can be destructive to nature, and to earth, and to other life forms. Or it can be conceived and created in a way that provides an environment for all living beings, all living things, all that reside upon this planet. The sum of all our architecture, good and bad, is not doing that today. The sum of all our architecture, good and bad, is adding up to something random, unintended. Does that mean that we can have a global building department? Not likely. That won't work. But it does mean that we can start to see, as we build buildings, we can start to see the larger context in which those buildings belong. We can start to take into account that it is not just the users that live in those buildings. It is all life that is impacted. It is all life that are the users of those buildings in some way. It is the planet, it is Gaia that is the user of that building. We have to be in partnership with all life in order to create great architecture for life. This is a new challenge. This is not what is taught in schools. This is not where the money often is. But this represents a great challenge to architecture over the next 25 years. Because if you look at the last 50 years, and particularly the last 25, and just project that into the future, we're going to cover this planet with asphalt if we don't start thinking in a different kind of way.